to In the Lab podcast, episode 7. Or hopefully it's 7, because I don't know what order we're just going to drop it. But we have a very special guest today, Mr. Justin Trash, international superstar, honestly, at this point.
No, that's crazy.
Nah, you guys are. I mean, like over 1 million plays on songs on Spotify.
Yeah, we have one song that's like at 8 million. But yeah.
Popping, bro, popping. And then, I mean, obviously, with all your social media success and your individual career success and stuff like that, part of a group called CBB.
Club Boyband.
Club Boyband. So yeah, welcome. Thanks for coming, bro.
Thanks for having me, bro.
These intros are hard. I've done 6 of them at this point, 6, 7. It just is difficult. Every time.
It's okay. Yeah. I totally understand.
Well, I mean, from there, like, I feel like the first time I met you was like, what was our first introduction?
I think it was here.
Was it? Oh, you came through for a session, right?
A session,
Wait, we're cooking up.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I had to leave for Red Lobster, like right away.
I think, yeah.
I felt bad for my boys because it's like it was like a last minute session.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to eat Red Lobster because it was like half off.
No,
Yeah.
I actually met Ethan that day too.
Oh shit, for real?
Yeah, and then he showed me Not Who You Know, and then that's when I was like, oh he's cracked.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to kiss this guy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then you did.
And we did, yeah.
And then after that, I think from then on we just kind of we did work on a couple demos, but then they ended up not being released.
Yeah,
just
we gotta get some in though, for sure.
We'll for sure get them in before you dip. And then I feel like I've hopped on, or I've been to like one of your sets to shoot for Kiss Me Through the Phone.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time I saw you guys like in action as an actor.
That was like the best song to be a part of, to be honest.
That was fun. It was a fun shoot,
yeah.
cool location. Got to know you guys a lot better. And yeah, from there, just like kind of kept up.
For sure.
Where were you the last time you like toured and stuff?
We just got back from Puerto Rico.
Oh yeah. Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
How was that?
Puerto Rico was insane,
Crazy?
to be honest. Like, cause obviously, like, we're like, who knows us in Puerto Rico?
Yeah,
but I think the cool part of that was the dance culture behind it. Cause like, there's like a club full of people and they don't know each other. Like, a lot of them don't know each other, but they're probably like, acquaintances or whatever. But if like a certain song plays, they're all like synchronizing, like dancing.
Oh, for real?
And like me and Rock for like he was super like on one, and I'm like sober now. But like we met eyes, we're like, yo, this is sexy. Like, cause they had the whole choreo down and they were on it, bro. Puerto Rico's fire.
Yeah, but that crowd would have been crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like I guess I would attribute it to part of the culture, because when I was in Cuba, like we would just like, I was trying to buy maracas and we were just like trying them out, and then the guy at the stall was just like, he would do like a rhythm, and then the whole like section like
they're
in the market, they're all like dancing and singing and stuff like that. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. I think it's cool because like we've never traveled a lot, and I guess like we did the BY tour when we were in the other group, and it was in Calgary, like Vancouver, but with like Club Boyband, we're able to go to like Singapore, New York. Like New York was honestly amazing, but it was so tiring because we like landed like dead in the morning, like at 6 a.m. and then had to wait like pretty much 12 hours to play the show. So we were so exhausted. But Puerto Rico, I want to go back there. It's actually so beautiful there.
Yeah. Latin America in general, man.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of, you touched on the other group. I feel like I idolized you as a person before we actually got to meet, because just like some context, I grew up in Markham, like Toronto, just north of the GTA, or just part of the GTA. And then you guys were like part of UPTOWN Boyband, which is
rest in peace.
It was like one of the first Asian like music groups that like we figured that like kind of made it. And then when I was in high school, I would look up to you guys because like 88 Rising, UPTOWN Boyband. Yeah. It was like, as someone who was aspiring to be a musician and be in the music industry, like seeing you guys work and seeing how successful you guys at the time, I was like, wow, I want to be them, like if they can do it, I can do it.
Dude,
right?
That's so crazy that you're like, you say that, because I remember you mentioned that before, but it's so crazy to hear that, because when we were in the label, like, and we were a part of UPTOWN Boyband, like it was like hell week every week, you know what I mean? Like we were suffering. And so it's all super validating. I think the one plus of that was the fact that like our goal was to inspire other kids, but we just didn't know who we were inspiring. But to hear like people like you, who we also like admire and appreciate as well as an artist. We're like, wow, like we did something, you know what I mean? And I think in terms of Uptown Boyband, we spent a lot of time kind of pretending that we were like people that we weren't, because we didn't know what we were doing essentially. Like we were just like people that were like faking it to make it, you know what I mean? And I think it worked in some ways, but I think on a personal, like artistic level, it was very draining. So I think what we're doing with Club Boyband is super us, and like we're unapologetically being us, and like we're not trying to be this version of us that we think people want us to be. We're being more on like more personal and more authentically ourselves. So it feels a lot better. But again, like hearing people say like positive things about our old group is super validating, because we actually just did not have a good time. And like,
Shit.
yeah, I think it was probably one of the most traumatic times of my life.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can go through it. I feel like, so I don't know if this is true or not, but I think when I first heard about you guys, it was sort of like you guys, your shows and stuff were like super popping, and that's how you guys got discovered in the first place.
Yeah, so essentially we met, and then we were like, okay, let's just play shows together. And we all had like solo songs. So then we played at this place called Set on King Street West. King Street West is hell. I don't even know why we were there. But that was one of our first like we have something. And we didn't really make music together until like maybe like 6 months in. And we were all sitting at Eaton Center in the cafeteria, and we needed a name. Like we can't just like go and not have like a name, right? So we were like, okay, let's just call ourselves Uptown Boyband. And Rock was like, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard in my life. And he's like, why would we do that? I was like, bro, just think about it. Like, if you like look at a poster, and you know we're doing like trap music, we're doing like our shows. The reason why I got so crazy was because it was like SoundCloud era, so people were like moshing, like people were breaking their like ankles, like it was crazy, right? And I think I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I think we got noticed because we were playing all these underground shows. And all these A&Rs kept hearing about it. So they kept all talking to themselves. And we ended up having like 3 label offers, which was Universal, Sony, and Ultra. And I don't think the grass would have been greener on either side. I think it would have just been the same situation. Because I don't think,
right?
yeah, and I don't think Canadian labels know what to do with Asian musicians in general. Because I think we were going viral in China for one of our songs, Bags. And like, I'm not a business major, but if you see numbers there, you should pour a little more money there, right? But they refused to do that, and they ended up trying to like market us to Canadians, and like, yo, Canadian people don't get us, you know what I mean? Like we barely get ourselves. How are Canadians, like white Canadian people, are supposed to like understand what this is? Yeah. So that's why our music started to lean towards more pop, because we were trying to like cater to the people they were marketing
more
us
general
to.
audience, yeah.
And I think that's what was like also very soul sucking for us. I can't speak on behalf of Rock, but I think our common, definitely like what we agree on is like it was very traumatizing. Yeah.
So what was it like? You know, I mean, eventually you guys realized it's not working out. Like, did the label approach you guys? Did you tell the label like we don't want to do this anymore?
There's a lot of like back end things that happen, but essentially like we just realized that like being a group as we were wasn't working out. Yeah. And we just basically told our manager, we're like, we can't do this any longer. Like this is not
like the same things anymore.
Yeah, like we're just doing the same things every week. We're like sessioning with actual K-pop producers, and there's so many, I think, chefs in the kitchen at that moment too. And it was during COVID, so like on top of that, it was COVID. We're signed to a label that we don't want to be a part of. We're making music that we hate, and it just like everything was, the only good thing I think we learned from that was what we don't want to do anymore. You know what I mean? Like we spent 4-ish years doing things that we didn't want to do, and now I think we're in a good spot where we've learned a lot. But overall, I would, especially in this day and age, like we don't need a label. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like
it's blessed.
It's so blessed. Like and I think there is like some cons to like the structure of it now, like the TikTok, you know, trying to go viral and stuff, because I think a lot of people are just chasing that virality without like realizing that you need to build a foundation. But I think that's what me and Rock are doing really well, is like we have a great foundation. You know what I mean? And I think even though we do take our time and sometimes it's a little too slow for me, I think we always like hit things with intention now. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think touching upon that, like kind of seeing behind the curtains of like some of the industry stuff now, I could definitely see how valuable it is to see from the other side first, and then realizing like these things just don't work, or the way of thinking, the way they're trying to market you just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then like learning from those experiences to what you're doing in Club Boyband right now.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the other thing is just like, I know when I first started music, the goal was just like get signed to OVO, get signed to EXO, get signed to the majors, Sony, you know, Universal Music. And then I know, and then when I first met you and I heard this, like some of the stories and things that went down, I was like, oh, I guess like you really don't want to be in a label sometimes. It just might not work out.
No, I think just like the label itself, like obviously as an artist, you're like, main goal, I'm getting signed. And it's like there's so many layers as an Asian too, where your parents hear that you want to be an artist. They're like, oh, you want to be fucking broke and you want to struggle? Like that's what they're hearing, right? Yeah. But I think for me, once I got signed, my mom was like, oh, like she has no idea what I'm doing, right? But she's like, oh, he did that though. So that's like stability in some people's eyes. In their eyes, right? But in that stability, there was so much instability, so it wasn't even worth being signed to the label in the long run, because I think on top of it being COVID, there was just so many things that I feel like I was getting gaslit into, like, you know, making the pop music that like we're like, okay, maybe this is the right choice. Maybe it's not working and maybe we have to do this. And I think that really like screwed with our minds and like our creativity in terms of having to make like this really weird pseudo K-pop thing that we were trying to do, and like we were dancing. Like that's so traumatizing, bro. Like I can't even watch those videos without being like, this is so
it hurts inside.
It hurts so much. Like it actually kills me inside.
Yeah. So coming out of that experience and getting out from the label and then starting, I mean, you guys didn't get to keep the IP UPTOWN Boy Band. I'm assuming they kept that.
We didn't want it.
You didn't want it?
We didn't want it.
So then
that shit could go, that like we wanted to bury that. And like I think the name itself, dude, it definitely helped us get to where we are right now. But in terms of like where it's sitting and like all the music we made, we were so good with them just keeping it. It wasn't important for us to keep it. Yeah.
And then so transitioning out of that era and then into Club Boyband, what was sort of the thought process and like wanting to start this sort of movement? And like the new kind of time in your life in music industry.
I think we learned a lot in terms of being in the major label, where we were like, okay, so this is how they navigate this. This is how they do this. But the one thing that I didn't understand was TikTok, right? And I started TikTok for fun. And I was doing the most cringe things on TikTok too. Like I just, honestly, I'm sweating thinking about it too. But I did whatever I wanted to do. And I was like, oh, I'm getting numbers. And then I realized that a lot of people that were liking my stuff was like fetishizers, right?
Oh god.
So it was like, okay, so I'm just gonna like make a whatever. I'm gonna like get some numbers off this, and then that also became soul sucking because the label also saw it was working, and they were like, okay, so like how do we integrate music? And then they just kind of got in the mix of it, and it just wasn't fun for us anymore, right? But through that, we learned, okay, so we could do this by ourselves, and if me and Rock were to like put our head together, we can definitely make like songs, just as long as we're pumping content out and like making people aware that we exist for now, instead of like worrying about, you know, not necessarily trying to go viral as a group, but just making sure the song is getting known, right? And I think Club Boyband is still like trying to structure itself to be like a household name, but we've transitioned from trying to like be like the forefront artists and facilitate just like the homies around us. And so we have an artist that we're helping out. His name is Semi. He's incredible. He's like he's considered Club Boyband's first artist, and that's what we want to do at the long run, is like have it like be an imprint of a major label and like help facilitate for younger artists. Like I can't imagine myself being like 35 past 35 and like shaking my ass on stage, you know what I'm saying? And like I legit used to shake my ass on stage, bro. Like when I was like,
but they'd be cheering for that though.
They loved it, bro. Like I would black out and like I would not want to watch my old videos because I'm like, I'm definitely twerking in this, because I was blacking out, right? But now it's crazy because I've been sober for like I think 9 months now.
Oh, congrats!
Thank you. And essentially, I've been playing all those shows like sober, and I've never done that in my life. I've always just been super like a bottle deep. And I think I've learned a lot in terms of like myself too, and also like I've changed my name. I'm not Justin Trash anymore. It's Bu-Wan.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
My bad.
No, it's okay. It's it's formerly known as Justin Trash, but that's like my demon self. I think like I'm
okay,
more like Bu-Wan's a name that I used to be super ashamed of because it's my first name actually. Justin's my middle name, and people feel betrayed when I tell them that. But Bu-Wan in Korean, it's a derivative off the word buja, which is rich, and then wan means wanjeon, which is everything. So like everything rich is like my name. It's so bad. Even in Korean, like people from Korea, they're like, that's a weird name.
But your parents gave it like name.
No, so it was my grandpa.
Oh.
And my grandpa is like, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that dude, but he's passed, so like rest and whatever. But he loved money.
Okay.
So he made sure that like my name was like something with money.
Okay.
And that's something that I always like I hated. I used to like live in Whippy, and they would like make like, oh, your name is Bu-Wan or like Bu-Wan, or you know what I mean? So like it was something that I hated, but I think in this new era of my life, it's something that I want to like take back myself.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm going under my first name. Bu-Wan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand. Like, I think growing up, I grew up in like a Catholic elementary school. And I'm Taiwanese as well. And how many like, if you look at the population that's Taiwanese and Catholic, and both parents as well, it's just like less than 1%. Right. So there's nobody that like when growing up, it's just all Italians, Romanians, like, and then so I mean, fortunately, my first name or my Govey is just Henry, but I don't have to deal with.
What's
like,
your Taiwanese name though?
He Henry.
Yo,
I feel like my parents are trolling. Yeah, I thought my parents are trolling.
So it's Henry but Taiwanese.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
it sounds
crazy.
exact same. So when I say it, when like people ask for my Chinese name, like and then what to call me, and they're like, "Damn, it's the same." I'm like, I don't know whether to be embarrassed or not because it sounds the same.
It's so easy though. I love that. Yeah.
But yeah, I can't imagine like having to grow up and then like most people like don't understand your culture. They can't even pronounce your name. Like it's part of your whole identity, right?
Yeah.
That's how like you grew up, like this is who you are, your name.
Yeah.
And then they just keep fucking up, making fun of it and shit like that.
Yeah, I tried to debut this in college, like my name Bu-Wan, and then I was like, okay, people were like, oh, is it Bu-Wayne? I'm like, where? Okay, whatever. And then I was like, okay, I'll shorten it.
Yeah.
I'll call myself Bu.
Yeah.
And it ended up being like people are like, Bill? Like blue? I'm like,
it's still fucking.
I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, this is the easy. This one fucking noise, you know.
Yeah,
but yeah.
No, I think also with I think what 88 and then Crazy Rich Asians, like this boom of Asians in media and in popular media, it's just like I think is more normalized and people are like more connected, especially with the K-pop like groups.
Yeah.
And like, they're really Jungkook. You say Jungkook, you say Bu-Wan. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like it's been more normalized and more mainstream, so people sort of like adopt it better or like are more okay with it. And it's cool to be able to reconnect with your roots again.
For sure. I think
that's something that we at Lab talk about sometimes. We're just like we want to be able to like we grew up in this culture, in the Asian culture, and then growing up we don't get to connect with it as much just because we're surrounded by people that don't really understand it.
Right.
But now we're at a place in our lives or a place in in the industry where like we're surrounded by people that look like us and that understand our culture, that grew up the same way, and that we're able to like really like bring up our roots and show like the world basically like what we're about. You know,
I think it's about like because it's so like you said, it's popularized by these like movies and TV shows and K-pop and stuff, and I think like that's amazing. But there's so many layers within like Asian community, right? Like you and I are very different. You know, we have commonality in terms of like loving art and making music. Yeah. But I think that's what's so beautiful about what we do is that there are so many people that do so many different things and have so many different personalities that we don't have to be pigeonholed with like, because that's the thing that I ran into on TikTok with the fetishizers. They'd be like, "Oh, he looks like Jungkook." I'm like, how? In what world do I look like Jungkook, bro? Like, I love that, but I know for a fact that they're just saying things because they're like, oh, smaller eyes and whatever. And I think that's what kind of screwed me up on TikTok too, was like catering to them. Yeah. And yeah, no, I think it's great that we have that kind of like jump start from, popularized media. Like, we have Beef. There's a new show called The Brother's Son. I haven't checked it out yet, but I heard it's pretty good. But I think like with things like that, we're showing so many textures within the Asian community, and I think it's beautiful. Yeah, I think we're in a good time.
Yeah, I mean, also when you talk about TikTok, I realized that like I came up in the SoundCloud era too, where you could like get into music or in the industry, like go off the platform itself, but you can't do that anymore, honestly. But starting from SoundCloud and then transitioning to this social media like TikTok, like cloud era, I feel like is a very big. I've had like kind of a problem adapting to it originally, and then it's like I can't imagine like for you guys, and I'm pretty young too comparatively. You guys have been like way more time in the industry, like a lot more experience in life in general. I can't imagine how it's like transitioning from that era of marketing music and like in the industry itself to like how it is now. So how do you find like that transition was and your experience in it?
I think there's this thing called analysis paralysis, and it's about like making content. So it's basically you're always thinking about like what type of content to make, and you're like, if it's not perfect, I don't think I want to release it. I don't think I had that. Like I think I had an unfiltered view on it. I'm like, I'm just gonna post. Like I'm gonna do TikTok dances. I'm gonna do like lip syncs. I didn't know thirst trapping was just as simple as like lip syncing. Like I didn't. That's a new thing. Like I'm definitely not part of my generation. Like I thought thirst traps was like you had to show some skin. But like people were like, oh, like you're thirst trapping. I'm like, what am I doing? And then I realized I was like, oh, me lip syncing is thirst trapping. So I have a love and hate relationship with TikTok and like short form content. It's like there's this thing where you get a high. It's so validating when one of your videos hit. You're like, yeah, like I did that right. And then the analysis paralysis starts doing it. And I'm like, oh wait, should I just do the same thing over and over again, or should I just change it up? I have a problem where one thing works, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do another thing. Oh, I'm gonna do another thing.
Yeah, I feel that.
Rock is like Rock is really good at this, where it's like so one thing hits, he's gonna drill you with it. He's gonna do the same video, change the text, and it works, right? I think the SoundCloud thing, we never really found like we never found success in music until after Uptown Boy Band. Like our biggest success was like last year. We were just like always out here where people like kind of knew us and like watched us, and we were good at social media. So it's just like I think from other people's perspective, like people are like, oh wow, like they're doing really well. And yeah, we were doing really well. We got signed, like all that. But like the internal, like when you're making art, you're like, this is not it, whatever. But other people are like, oh, this is great.
You didn't feel satisfied.
I didn't feel that. Yeah. And then I think even now, even with the success of like what we did last year, love it. But we're always like, we have to do a lot better than this. You know what I mean? We've proved ourselves we can do up to here. How do we get past that? And I think with social media, like I said, it's a love and hate thing where I love the feeling of when a video hits. It's like a drug. But then there's that thing where like sometimes when you're shadow banned or your videos aren't doing too well, like you can't help it, but you're like, oh, I'm not like worthy. Like I'm not doing this right.
You put some value.
You put too much value on it, and like I've stopped doing that. Like whenever I feel like that, I just take a break. I'm like, this is not gonna dictate how I feel, because like it's just such a toxic kind of way of like approaching music or like creatives. And I think like when I start feeling like that, I'm just like, okay, I gotta take a step away and just actually work on music or work on like creatives and stuff. So yeah,
that's healthy. How do you find that you've been able to balance like that? Because we're in there. You have to do social media.
You have to.
It's like you have no choice. You like the idea that you want to be successful in the creative industry and not do TikTok is kind of insane now.
It's insane. Like whatever you do, like whether you have a restaurant or you're doing art, like you need TikTok because it's like the most free like marketing platform that you have.
Exactly. And then, so how do you find that balance between, as you said, like you've sobered up the last 9 months, you've like struggled with value in social media, but you also have the balance because that's a career tool and a really useful tool and marketing yourself, especially without a label now, right? Yeah. So how do you find, and advice for other people who also struggle with this idea and identity and stuff like that, and how do you balance social media with your like regular work and life?
Well, so I don't have a day job, like I'm doing this full time, and that doesn't mean I'm like fucking, swimming in it. You know what I mean? But I think if you have the opportunity to like fund your like real passion, like look at your day job as your side job. You know what I mean? If you want to do graphic design, if you want to if you want to be a producer, if you want to be an artist, like that's your main job, right? So if you're not making money off that, do the day job. Like do the day job until you're in a position, and it's a tricky situation to be in. Like me and Rock can't go out and get a day job right now because like we have so many shows that are like scattered through the year, and we can't keep asking for time off. It's not like we need a day job, but we're in a position where we've gone here through like hard work and but I think the balance is like something that I'm always searching for. Like I think as an artist, you just like you obsess about like the most minute details of your life, whether it's like your personal life or your, your art or whatever. I think that balance is something that I'm still trying to find. Like I feel like I do obsess over less social media now, but more on like what I want to do musically with rock and myself. And sometimes I get so obsessive that it just like it really like it causes like this anxiety where I'm like, am I like tripping? Like, am I gaslighting myself into thinking I'm dope, or am I gaslighting myself into thinking I'm whack? Like, I don't know, right? And I think being sober is actually helping me a lot to just face those types of questions. Whereas before I'm like, well, this is hard. I'm just gonna drink. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just gonna drink. Who wants to go drink? And now I'm like, I can't even drink. Like, dude, I'm at the club more often than I was when I was drinking, and I'm
like
sober. And I'm sober, and people are trying to give me bottles and stuff, and I'm like, would love to, but I can't. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to do this for another year, because I feel like a year is like a good thing for me, but I think for me to, I think I will definitely like not be able to control how much I'm gonna drink. I think I'm gonna like drink a year's worth of like what I didn't.
Yeah, catch up.
Yeah. So I want to do this for another year, but yeah, I don't know, like. I'm sorry. Are we on the balance question right now?
Yeah, no.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, to touch on the sobriety thing, I actually also quit weed, and I'm also around 9 months myself. So
amazing.
It'll be a year in March, and then so I also feel like some like before a lot of the coping and the anxiety and stuff like that, I would just hit a bowl, smoke a blunt, something, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is just like I'm surrounded by people who smoke a lot of nicotine and cigarettes and vape and stuff like that. And I smoke weed. I'm like, I'm not addicted. You know, like, they're addicted. I'm not addicted. Yeah. And then at some point, and I think it got really bad during the pandemic, where I was just like, I don't know if I can stop. Like, I'm like, I smoke every day, but I'm like, I can stop. I can quit. I'm not addicted.
True addict. Yeah.
And then it was like 2021. I quit for like maybe like a quarter, so like 3 months ish, and I was like, oh, that was easy. But the thing is, I started smoking way more after that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I think maybe because like struggles in life or like the anxieties of like doing music and being creative, things like that. And I started smoking. Yeah, I started smoking way more, and then I finally had to like have an intervention with myself where I'm like, I just gotta quit. I gotta prove to myself I gotta quit.
Yeah.
So I said a year.
Yeah.
But honestly, at the year, I'm also like I feel the same way as you. I'm like, will I be able to control myself after that?
Right. I think it's so surprising because I've never had that relationship with like weed.
Yeah.
Like I'm for someone who in my position, like who's always in the public or whatever, I have a lot of anxiety. So there's always points where I'm like, oh, I'm good smoking weed, but sometimes it'll get to the point where I'm like, you know, when you're like so faded and then you're questioning like positions of your hands and stuff like that.
Yeah, like a panic attack.
Yeah, exactly. I'm having like a mini panic attack in public. And I think, to be clear, like me being sober is like not drinking, because that drinking led to so many other things for me. But like weed, I still touch here and there, but like I'm not like relying on anything. That's what's like, I'm not like on some AA program where I'm like, oh, I can't do anything. But drinking was my main thing that I had to stop. Yeah.
How do you feel like the mental clarity's been? Because for me, it's been like a godsend.
Yeah, it's actually amazing. I think, like I said, like I used to use that as a crutch to like deal with my anxiety, and I think now that I'm like face to face with my anxiety and like my depression, and I'm undiagnosed. Like I'm saying this as in like I feel like, you know, I have whatever, but I definitely spent like I think, dude, like 70% of my life being fucked up. So like now I'm not able to like lean onto those type of things, so I'm like having these conversations with myself. I'm trying to get into more like spirituality. I've been going to church, which is crazy.
Okay.
Yeah. I won't touch too much into it because it's still something that's like I'm trying to figure out. But mentally, I feel a lot more clarity and I feel a lot better about myself. And I would advise people to try to have like a dry month or whatever, because it does bring a lot of clarity. And it's like, I'm telling you, if I could do it, you could do it too. You could do it 100%.
Yeah, same. Yeah. For real. I mean, have you reflected back on like sort of why you got into the creative industry in the first place? Like why you started music, why you started doing all this? Because it's not a hard. It's definitely not an easy road to walk.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes when I see people want to do music for a living or want to be creative, I'm just like, dude, like you're kind of insane. Like the people doing this, we're all kind of insane, you know?
No, you have to be delusional.
Yeah.
Like you legit have to like pretend like it's like the fake it till you make it, but an internal conversation where you're like, no, I can do this. I can do this.
Or I've already done it.
I'm already doing it. You know what I mean? I think for me, it was less about like wanting to do music. I just didn't want to go to school. I'm not good at school. Like I didn't know what gaslighting was when I was younger, but I used to like take tests and then just put it in my backpack and gaslight my teacher. I'm like, yeah, I turned it in. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that to the point where I like didn't know how to like take tests or do homework and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, school's definitely not for me. And I've always wanted to be an entertainer. Like, I'm actually currently signed as an actor to Authentic. Shout out Gina. But that's like my true passion is like I want to get into film. And music is something that's so great where I used to like write poetry a lot when I was younger. I didn't know how to rap. I'm not like musically inclined at all. Like I've just learned everything on my own, and like singing and learning how to write, like all that stemmed from like things that I did love doing. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. Right. And now that I have these opportunities to like, you know, send in auditions and do, do the music thing that I'm doing now, like we get to travel, which is insane. And I think
that's awesome.
That's something that like I could have never pictured. Like every time me and Rock go anywhere, we're like, damn, Club Boyband in Puerto Rico, boy. He's like, yeah.
International, baby.
International, yeah, for real.
So on touching that, you mentioned that you wanted to do acting projects in the future and you're doing auditions and things like that. What are some of your like dream projects that you want to work on? Maybe you've already done it. Maybe like you're working towards it.
Yeah, I think for me, so I've never seen Euphoria, but I want to go on. Like I want to be a character on Euphoria because everyone's telling me to, like, people are like, yo, you should try out for Euphoria. I'm like, it's not a basketball team. Like I can't like, you know what I mean? Sign me up, coach. I can't do that. But I think I want to go into like projects like A24 films. I definitely want to. I want to go on Beef. Like I really want to go on Beef.
Okay.
I just want to do something that's like so predominantly Asian, but so like in like a different light though. Like, cause you see like so many movies and TV shows that are in America that are so like they are all Asian cast, but there's like a certain type of like
there's stereotypes.
There's stereotypes, right? And I love what Beef did, where it was like I related to that so much because I used to live in Orange County and California, and I grew up here. There's so many things I related to, like just to like the small nuances of like even having a sibling or the relationships with your parents, and I want to be able to like represent Asians in that way as well through film. And I think my dream in terms of music, I want to open up for TEEZO Touchdown or collaborate with him. So that's like my, like I was talking about my solo project.
Yeah.
A huge inspiration for me was Tyler, the Creator, when I was growing up.
He's my number one artist.
Number one. Like I legit watched him and I was like, oh, I could do this too. Not saying that was easy, but I was like, he is so like, he's delusional. He's also like, you know what I mean? Like, so I felt like, oh, I'm just as delusional as him. I could do this. Yeah. And I never felt so seen until that. And then now when I listen to TEEZO's project, I was like, because I was already making like kind of non-KRMB music. And then that kind of like opened up like my eyes and I'm like, oh, I am making music like this. And I just love how he just kind of navigates the industry. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, I've been bumping him a lot recently. His album was like incredible to listen to, and I definitely found him from like Travis and Drake first. Like, I didn't know who he was beforehand, and then I saw the feature. I'm like, this guy's dope. Like the whole song, like I love it so much just because of him. Yeah. And then I went to go listen to the projects when he dropped it, and I was like, holy shit, this guy is so unapologetic about his art. Like, and you hear a lot of like differing reviews on it. Some people really hate it, some people love it, and I think that's what's amazing about his art, because he does give a fuck. He just does what he enjoys doing, and you can hear it in the music. You can hear it,
and even like the melodies and like even the beat choices and stuff too. It's so him. Like it just what he wants to do. And like when I first heard TEEZO Touchdown, it was because we worked with Benny X too.
Oh
yeah, and we were like researching Benny X, but we found TEEZO, and it was like the first time we saw him, he had the nails in his hair, but he was doing really low budget things in front of a garage. And we were like, this is so strange, but this is amazing. And then like we just slowly watched him like blow up. And that last album, man, I've been bumping. Like I've been bumping. Incredible. And I think like I'm dropping a couple covers actually, but
oh shit.
I think TEEZO is definitely an inspiration in terms of like how I view Tyler as well, where I was like, oh, I could do whatever I want without trying to fit into any mold, you know. And I don't think there's a lot of Korean artists that are doing that now. And the only artist that I do see as well, another dream collaboration, is Sion Jung and Zyor Park.
Oh.
They're actually, I don't know if anyone knows them, but like if you watch their music videos, it's they're on a different planet.
I gotta check them out after.
Yeah, they're incredible. I think like even if TEEZO like worked with them, I think it would be a crazy collab.
Jeez, yeah. I think you put it perfectly. Like someone like TEEZO is someone I also look up to because it's like I want to feel like I never want to feel like I'm being held back where like someone else is telling me like you have to do this kind of music, as you said, where you were like signed to label. Like I always wanted to, my main reason for making music in the first place is that I wanted to make music that I want to listen to. And I felt like there was just something missing in the music I was listening to already, with the music that people are putting out, and that I might as well make it myself because I want to listen to it.
Right.
And then I guess the flavor of the month kind of changes for me all the time, so I'm kind of all over the place. I like to compose orchestral stuff, make trap beats, whatever it is, right? And then I feel like someone like TEEZO is someone I can look up to in terms of he just creates art that he wants to. He doesn't care if anyone listens to it or not. He just like he feels so fulfilled. And you can hear it in his music, and that's why I want to end music.
Dude, I gotta show you my solo project because I feel like maybe you're the missing link. Because I've been using like YouTube demo beats and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like maybe like I'll show it to you after. But it's just so. Yeah, like I've never felt. Like I always have conversations with like all my artist friends in terms of like the difficulties of being an Asian artist. Like you have, you know, you gotta make like a certain like KRMB or like. Dude, you have like non-Korean people being like, "Well, I'm making Korean R&B." I'm like, "What's Korean R&B now? Like, what is Korean R&B at this point?"
Wait, that's actually funny.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, no, like, shout out them. Like, you're getting your bag. I have nothing against it. I don't own that genre at all. Like, but I think you don't have to be like pigeonholed. And I think there is an opportunity for an Asian artist to be mainstreamed like that too. It's just like there isn't any. Like, what Asian artists are like really out? You know who's actually doing really well though is Miko.
Oh.
Shout out that guy, dude.
His shows are crazy. Too.
I've seen his TikToks from way before. That kid, he deserves his flowers, bro. That guy is amazing. But yeah, I love what he's doing. I think that he has what's his background?
I think he's Filipino.
Amazing, obviously. Fuck.
I feel bad if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure he's Filipino.
Okay, he's one of the cracked Asians. Yeah. All Asians are cracked actually. But I think, Miko is one of the, like someone that I know 100% can definitely get mainstream. Yeah. But I'm talking about like my culture in general. Like I feel like a lot of people in Korea are like very known to be like vultures in their own way. Like there's always like a copycat version of like Central C or like whatever. And like go get your bag. I don't care. I used to get super angry about it. Yeah. But when I sobered up, I'm like, it's not even my problem. I just don't like being represented by that. Right. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah. I think it's misrepresenting me. Uh-huh. And a lot of people, like, I'm used to people making assumptions about me, right? And I think my music sounds nothing like what I look like, which I love. And I want to, like, keep doing that because even Rock is the only person that understands because I always show him my new music that I'm doing for myself. Yeah. And he knows what the style is, right? It's mine. It's like it's something that I've been building for years. And like I said, man, like seeing TEEZO do his thing, I feel like there's like an empty spot for a Korean man like me to fill, and I want to do that. And I think me being Bu-Wan and like me being myself, I think that's like there's a time and place for me, and I'm trying to find it.
Dude, you definitely kill it, man.
Thank you.
I mean, I've seen how much work you put in. I've seen like your old demos, and just seeing you like put in so much work now and see how much you care about it. Like, yeah, you're gonna kill it for sure.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So I mean, going on to how much time do you have left? 40? I mean, we definitely have enough time to talk about this. What advice do you have for the next generation of artists? So like the people like me that looked up to you initially, and then there's going to be like the next gen after us, you know, and things like that. What kind of advice do you have for them? One, as an Asian artist or Asian creative getting into it, and then two, as a young creative and young artist like wanted to get into the industry as well.
I think definitely put your chest into like whatever you want to do, like whether it's like art, school. Like I used to tell people, I'm like, if you don't want to go to school, then don't go. But like I'm not telling you not to go to school. Like school is a lot of money, so like definitely like the person that changed my mind on that perspective was Ethan.
Ooh.
Because
Okay.
Ethan was blowing up and he was like, I can't even celebrate. I'm taking my midterm right now. I'm like, that's lame. I'm like, you're a nerd. But I was so proud of him. I was like, wow, like he's actually still chasing his school bag and blowing up. For me, my personality, I would have wrote out the lyrics of Bubbly and sent it to my professor and be like, fuck you, I'm leaving. You know what I mean? Peace, bitch. You know what I mean? Like, they said I went, but you know what I mean? I would have dipped. But nah, Ethan was like a better man for sure. And I think, like I said, if I was to go to school, I would go to something that I'm passionate about. Like, I love jewelry, so I would love to learn how to make jewelry. But as far as young creatives, I feel like, dude, it's so scary doing, like, even going to school and, like, you're not promised a job. But doing a creative thing is, like, you're going against everybody, right? And, like, whether, especially if you're Asian, I think the biggest struggle is the fact that there is no, like, mainstream Western artist that is making like waves as big as, like, you know, the Drakes, the Kid Leroys or whatever. I don't know why those two artists were the top, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just so tough to navigate this industry, so you can't like look at it like lightly.
Yeah.
But it's something that's not impossible.
Right.
You know what I mean? There is a kid, the next generation, that I know is gonna do it.
Yeah.
There is gonna be future generations, especially the way like the Asian culture is growing in the West. I feel like, but if you really want to do it, don't treat it like a hobby. It's not a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it needs to be your main thing, and whatever day job you have, that's your side job. That's supposed to facilitate and monetize your real job. And I think I tell this to any of my artist friends. I'm like, either do it or don't, because you're insulting everybody else that's like really putting their chest into it, right? It's like, yeah, like, I like making music, or I like making art. It's like, that's cool. Like, then keep it as a hobby. But there's a crossroad that you meet where it's like, are you doing this for your passion, or are you doing this to make money? And you have to find that balance. Whether you want to be, you know, like a living musician, a working musician, or you want to just do it for yourself. And it's cool. Either way is cool. Like, if you want to make music for yourself, that's fine. But I think, like, if you don't change your mentality in terms of, like, you know, doing the TikTok content or doing all that, like, it's doing it for yourself. Like, you're going to be playing in front of the mirror then.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, I think just don't treat it like a hobby.
Yeah.
It's not a hobby.
Do you find that, like, when you, like, I don't know if you even went to, like, university, college or not in the first place?
I did, but it
didn't work out?
Yeah, it didn't work out.
I mean, similar story. Do you find that removing that safety net, because, like, safety net was school. I mean, it's like preached to us that school. It's like, you go through it, you go get a degree, go apply for a job, and that's your life.
Yeah.
You know, do you find that removing that safety net, like, pushed your drive, your motivation a lot more, or was it just like, this is what I have to do? You know.
So I've been like lived by myself for like, I think like more than half my life. So there was a lot of survival things from the jump start of my life before even I was thinking about music. But out of respect for my mother, she was like, no, you can't get a job, like, go to school. But that was my mistake. Why am I listening to someone who's not, like, doesn't even know what I want to do? I don't even know what I want to do, right? So shout out my mom. I'm not talking smack about her, but I did it because I was like, okay, so, like, I'll just try out school, which is a horrible idea. Like, don't go to school unless you know what you want to do. Seriously.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean? Like, if you were like, oh, I want to go do music, then take a music program. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't even know I wanted to do music. Like, I was doing it like a hobby. And I would skip school all the time and just make the most horrible music in my life. And I was playing for I was in London, Ontario. So not only was I Asian in London, Ontario, but I was making like this obscure, like, trap experimental, like, music that, like, nobody got. And it was, like, really inspired by Tyler, the Creator. And it was just bad. And I think there's no safety net whether you're going to school or you're not. I think like I said, stay in school if you know what you want to do, but there's just, like, no knowing what your purpose is if you're not trying.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. You're not going to know anything unless you try it.
Yeah.
Like, and don't be afraid of, like, failing. Like, me and Rock have eaten so many L's that we, like, it tastes good. You know what I mean? Like, it's a learning experience at this point, right? But I think people are afraid to, like, take L's, so they don't even try.
Yep.
And I think that's their biggest mistake. I think what I learned the most was continuously being fed L's and, like,
Learning from your failures.
Learning from my
Yeah.
failures, even if
Growing
like
as a person.
sometimes the L's were so disgusting, like disgusting shit.
Yeah.
I still ate that shit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think that's something that like we're good at doing is like using it as like a learning curve and navigating outside of it and being like,
Mhm.
okay, so to avoid this, let's do this even better. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing you're talking about failure is like I don't think I would be the person I am or like where I am in the industry without failure for
Mhm.
sure. And if I was afraid of it, I just wouldn't be given the opportunities or have like met the type of people that I've met or even ask the questions that I should be asking
Right,
because
right.
like if I didn't fail, I wouldn't ask the questions. Right? I
Exactly.
think I knew.
Yeah.
And by failing, I was able to like go seek help or go find other people or surround myself by other people to help fill the things I'm not good at
Yeah.
and knowing that I wouldn't be good at it.
That point too is also when you're like growing up as an artist, you're like, oh, I could do this all by myself.
Yeah.
Like I don't need help. Like fuck you. You don't know anything. You don't know how I want to do it. Well, I was like, I didn't really know, but like everybody needs help. Like, and I think when you're accepting help, you actually grow as an artist, as a person.
Yeah.
And like you learn all those questions to ask. And sorry to interrupt.
No,
but
no, you're
That's
good,
like it's such a good like point that you brought up in terms of like asking for help. I think it's such a because there's a lot of ego when you're like making art. You're like, no, like I know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, no, this is the right way to do it. But then when you're asking all the right questions, you realize, oh, I have this much room to grow, and I didn't allow that because I was just so full of myself. And I think that's what I learned too.
That was the biggest thing I had to deal with. Like the failures had to force me to humble myself.
Yeah.
And then I had to like reflect on. You have to have an ego to be successful, but you also can't let that ego get in your way.
It's
in
balance,
growing.
bro.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like that part is like was really tough.
Yeah.
Um,
Like Rock always so like in the beginning when Uptown Boy Band we were like, yeah, we're the shit. Like we're the first Korean fucking boy band in Canada. You know what I mean? Like we're the best. And we were like pretending, right? But I think now every time I hang out with Rock, it's so humbling because he's just like, bro, we ain't shit. I was like, yeah, we're not shit. We're figuring it out, bro. We're figuring it out. And like, dude, like even the independence, like being independent and like being in a label, like the one thing that we learn is like financially, being an artist, that's like the hardest thing. It's like all your ideas are so amazing, but if you don't have money, it's just kind of hard to navigate those ideas.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that me and Rock always joke about. It's like we need to like be able to at least break even, but now we're like navigating a structure where like, you know, we need to get our piece and be able to like break even or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I think yeah, like at the end of the day, bro, you're not shit until you're the shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like I think that's something that we all learn as we're growing up is we're not anything, and like we can't pretend like we're like these like titans of the industry when like there's actual titans living among us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. What do you feel like? I know you mentioned like the some of the lessons you learned being in a label, not being in a label, and then I feel like there was a really common misconception that when you're in a label that they give you everything, that like you can just ask for it and they just bring it up on a platter. They're like, here you go, here's a music video.
This is a very good question. So basically they promise you a certain amount of money, but say if like we want to get a music video done, right? And we're like, okay, we need $20,000 for this. They're like, okay, we'll give you 2. Yeah, like and we have all these funds like for AD, like artist development, like whatever, marketing, all this stuff, but we don't know where those things are sitting at.
Mm-hmm.
They won't tell us.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was part of like what was so upsetting for us too, because we kept having to like not even meet them halfway. It was like we were like a fraction of our ideas were being like used and stuff, and then they would pitch in their ideas, but then they'd keep the money hostage. So that's the structure of a label. It's like, oh, we'll give you this much money, and for people that are like working day jobs and stuff, it's like, oh my god, this is a lot of money. Like we can quit our jobs. We quit our jobs, and we're like struggling. We're dying, and we're like, okay, we just need to have our ideas executed. How can we do this? They're not giving us our money. And so I think that was like the biggest issue that we had was the finances weren't as pretty as it seemed.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You hear like the contract jails of like Frank Ocean,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
you hear like someone like Summer Walker doesn't make any money off royalties.
Right.
And then it's just like kind of insane to think about sometimes where like some of the artists are like in debt signing to a label
Yeah.
and then you feel like it should be the complete opposite. It's kind
They're
of
basically loan
yeah.
sharks. Like no, like
that's a good way to
labels.
put it. That's a good way to put it.
They're loan sharks, and thankfully, like no offense to like Canadian music industry, dude. So many great artists come out of here. I'm talking about the labels in general. If we were signed to an American label, I don't think we would have been able to like leave.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think that was also a positive thing too with the old label was like there was an understanding that this wasn't working out collectively.
Mm-hmm.
So like it was very like painless when we left.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out that. But other than that, I feel like there was so much like disrespect as artists that we like kind of had to endure. And I think, yeah, like the way, like what Rock says is like 돈이 제일 무서운 거. He said that money is the scariest thing. Because when someone can hold money over you, then like you're basically their like you're their bitch. You know what I'm saying? And we were their bitch. And we had to like we had so many like discrepancies about, you know, ideas. There's so many chefs in the kitchen, especially with the label. And look, one of the stupidest things, this is the last thing I'll talk about the label, but like one of the stupidest meetings we've ever had was about Spotify. And they were telling us like, okay, we have to have this whole meeting. It was like an hour and a half meeting, and they were just giving us Spotify statistics. There's over 1 billion users of Spotify, and we're like, okay. I'm like, what are we doing about that? You know what I mean? It was just so frustrating. And that's the type of like things that were like wasn't moving the needles for us. And like I don't even think they knew what to do with us too. So
yeah,
that was difficult.
Yeah. Jeez. Well, first of all, I appreciate you coming on. You're someone again like. You're someone that I was really inspired by, like your creative vision, your work ethic now, like just seeing how you move. And like, again, like seeing you at Uptown Boy Band, you're someone I don't think I would have worked as hard as in music or dreamed about being successful in music if it wasn't for you guys doing it first,
Thank
right?
you so much.
So like, unfortunately that part of your life was a failure.
Yeah.
But it's also really like great to hear that like you're the next part and next era in your life is proving to be so successful.
Yeah.
And then it's inspiring for me as well because, you know, to see you guys, the generation before us, like work so hard for like we don't eat unless you guys paved the way for us. You know.
Yeah.
So it's something that I'm eternally grateful for.
Man, the gas is real. Thank you so much.
No, for sure, man. And then
appreciate you.
Let's fucking get it, baby.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And then, you know, wrapping up this podcast like for In the Lab, something I always repeat is just like I'm honestly I learned a lot this episode. And I hope that you guys like take something away yourself. And I'm pretty green. Like I've been in the industry for like 5-6 years now, but I still feel like every day there's something I can learn. And ultimately in the grand scheme of life, like we're pretty young. So again, thanks for listening and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.